everybody. Today I thought I would go into a little bit of detail about my personal experience when it comes to, having co-drivers. Now, I worked with CRST back last year. I believe I left back in July, somewhere around there. And I worked for them about, 1 year, somewhere close to that. And, you guys know I've had some pretty nightmare co-drivers, but I haven't really touched, this subject a little bit, more than I probably should have, when kind of, what to look out for, and kind of, my experiences and stuff like that. So, I have had some, a good co-driver. I had one good co-driver that I was really, really happy with. Unfortunately, he kind of went on the same, kind of boat that I did and just, went solo as soon as he could. I believe he was close to his 6 months, and seriously, once you hit your 6 months of driving, you can venture out to other departments, other divisions, and you can do solo driving from there. Fortunately, I was able to get it. I believe I got solo driving like a month before my 6 months were up, somewhere around there. And so, I never really disclosed on how I got that and whatnot. So, I would like to, sort of go over, my experiences with the co-drivers. So, as I said, the first co-driver that I had, I don't remember any names, unfortunately. This was a while back, so, I'm not going to remember any names, and I don't want to, bash somebody, anyways, so I'm not going to mention any names, but the first co-driver, he was pretty awesome. He knew what he was supposed to do. He was a very decent driver. He was kind of able to do things on his own. I didn't have to, moderate him. I actually felt comfortable with him behind the wheel. I was able to get some pretty decent sleep. And, honestly, that's the, you know, what really takes the cake here. Do you trust the driver while you're sleeping back there in the bunk? That's ultimately very important. You got to make sure you trust the guy that, is up there driving, or, you know, you're never going to get any sleep. And that's kind of, one of the bad experiences that I had, after the other co-drivers that I had was, I did not trust them behind the wheel because, they had no idea what they were doing. But my first co-driver, he definitely did knew what he was doing, and he did very well. So I was very happy with that. Unfortunately, I hate that, I lost him. But, moving on to, the other two co-drivers that I had. My second co-driver, he had no idea what he was doing. I had to do almost every backing for him. He didn't even know how to, hook up to a trailer. He didn't know how to, even use a landing gear or, the dollies. It just, I had to do everything for him, and, my honest take on this, he should have, went with another lead driver that, actually taught him what to do. That's the biggest problem over seriously. You have lead drivers that just care about, getting to point A and point B, and they're not worried about teaching a guy. And unfortunately, a lot of places have this, and kind of my recommendation to do with that as well is to make sure that, if you have a lead driver that's not doing anything, put your foot down. This is your career on the line, and this is something that, it's pretty much your livelihood on the line. This, can potentially be life or death if you don't know what you're doing out there. So you got to make sure that, you find a lead driver that is going to actually teach you how to do this job, because that's, the whole point of having a lead driver is to teach you things that, but typically, what school will not teach you or don't have time to teach you. And it's very important that you have a good lead driver that actually shows you the ropes and shows you what you need to do. And, as I said, if you have a lead driver that, don't meet your expectations and stuff like that, just go find another one. I've to do this several times to where, it was just time to, find another lead driver because, they weren't doing what they're supposed to. But anyways, so as we're talking about, my second co-driver, as I said, I did not trust him behind the wheel. He had no idea what he was doing. You know, he, well, one of the biggest things that I don't know why it just drove me nuts is, one of the minor incidents that really stood out for me that, really didn't make any sense is we were about to actually go to a truck stop. Now, mind you, some truck stops can be really confusing to get into. Trying to find the entrance, but the truck stop, as he's exiting, is literally right in front of him. He was supposed to turn right, and you can clearly see the entrance. It wasn't, hidden or anything like that. You can literally see the signs, entrance, where you're supposed to enter. And he decides to take a left and go through a residential neighborhood. Yeah, that was real well. Fortunately enough, the roads were wide enough. I think they actually planned ahead of this just in case. And, this little town or whatever. I don't remember where this was, but, I was in the back. And, when you're a teen driving and you're in the back sleeping, you have no idea where you are. You wake up, and you're in a completely different state than what you originally went to bed at. It can be really, disorientating, and you just have no idea where you're at. So, but anyways, fortunately enough, the rest of the streets were wide enough that, he can get through there just fine. And I ended up having to wake up and show him where the hell he actually needed to go because this guy was just a freaking idiot. So, the next big instance for me that really took the cake is we were, this was in Kansas, someplace, I don't remember where this was, God. This was so long ago. I was sleeping as well, so this is one of the few and only times that I was actually able to get some sleep while this dude was driving. I don't know how I did, but, I was fast asleep, and when he wakes me up, he says, "We're stuck." I'm like, huh? What happened? So, what he ended up doing is he took a wrong turn or was supposed to turn, down the road, and, he did it. He went straight instead, and he ended up finding it was kind of like a field, like a farming field or whatnot, but it had a bunch of old machinery on it. He's like, "Oh, I think I can make this turn." No, you couldn't. There was, it wasn't really, just grass pretty much, and mud. And they just got done working on this, so the ground was pretty soft. And he, put the truck in the ditch. So we had to wait for, I think it was close to 3 or 4 hours, and we got a lot of attention there. The police showed us, the sheriff showed up. The sheriff stuck around for, the entire thing until the tow truck arrived. And, that was pretty interesting that happened. So, kind of, what ended up happening, we got a tow truck. I think, what happened with the truck is the transmission ended up being burnt out. I think, from him trying to get the truck out, he burned up the transmission. And so we went to the nearest shop there. And, like I said, this was a lot of attention. The owner of this field was not very happy. And so, that was kind of, a thing that really, just drove me nuts. I do not know what he was doing. I actually believe, when I was solo one time, I went to redrive. I think I found the turn that he was supposed to turn at. I don't know what he was doing, but, it was a pretty simple turn. I just confused about that whole situation. So, anyways, the other thing that really bothered me the most is, most of this is, I couldn't get any sleep. I was maybe getting, if I was lucky, 3 hours of sleep, which is just not enough, especially to try to drive a 11-hour shift. And so this guy had no idea how to back. He just could not do it. I did my best to try to teach this guy how to back, and he's just a freaking idiot. You can't teach him. And so, I end up having to do a backing, um, you know, just every single time that we went to the shipper. In fact, it got so ridiculous that I got to the point to where, I made sure that I would always deliver a pickup to the shipper. I know that's kind of, it worked sometimes. It didn't always work, but, most of the time I was able to get this done on my shift. And I made sure that, he had no hours whatsoever to be able to make it to the shipper because I did not trust him. And this is another point. Yeah, and this was kind of towards when, I was already fixed to leave weeks before this, situation happened. But we were at a shipper one of these days and he hit a yard dog. And now this yard dog was parked, there was nobody around, and I tried to get this dude to stop. He needed to stop, but he did not. He just drove anyways. And this was the point where it's like, okay, I'm out of here. I'm done. This guy's going to end up getting me killed. It's just no. So I just got out of there and, moved on to my third co-driver. Now, this guy was, an absolute just dickhead. This guy, I wanted to, start a fight with this guy. This guy just drove me nuts. So, and I was even, he wasn't even, on the truck very long with me, anyways. I just said screw it, So, what ended up happening was, we weren't really getting along very well. This guy, was kind of the same boat as the last one, but he kind of did a little bit better. So, I kind of had to teach him, and he was the one that, think he could do it all by himself. Even though he had no idea what he was doing, he thought he can do it. And so, this is just, he didn't even know how to release a trailer. I don't know what he was doing, but, I had to teach him how to, release a trailer to, or release the kingpin. Um, and so, he would just argue with me about everything. I would do my best to try to teach him, and, he would just, think he knew how to do it. In all reality, he didn't. And so, we're kind of on edge. And so, we ended up going home for a couple of days. I had the truck. And so, what ended up happening was, and it's very fortunate that during this time I kind of made, my mark with CRC a little bit. I was kind of the guy that, tried to go above and beyond, with, all the guys that, all the co-drivers that, didn't really know what they were doing. I did my best to try to teach them and, just show them how things were actually supposed to work. And so I kind of made my mark, and so the truck was, always coming home with me, no matter what. I was, that's kind of, seriously works there. If the railroad like you, then, you get to take the truck home, and, you're always going to take the truck home. It's kind of, your truck with, a co-driver that you have. So, what ended up happening, so we went home. I think this was like 2 3 days, and we got a load. I believe this was, I don't remember where this was. I think this was close to Ohio or something like that. And we were, actually, no, I think this was Kentucky. Yeah, I think this was Kentucky. And we had a load headed to Wisconsin. And so I picked up a load first, and this is kind of what I was instructed to do. And I picked up a load in Kentucky, and I was supposed to go pick my co-driver up here, and there was, I believe, some complications. I believe I had an issue with the, load that I had. I believe the load actually ended up getting canceled, or there was just nobody there. And so what ended up happening was I I think I waited for another load the next day or something like that. I believe I had to wait for a day. Actually, I believe the first load that I had was going from Kentucky to Oregon, which I was really hoping for that load because it's one of the states that I have not been to yet, which was Oregon. So I was very excited for that, and that's going to be a lot of miles because that's across the country pretty much. So unfortunately, we didn't get that load. We got a load going from, I believe, was Kentucky to Wisconsin, and so I was trying to communicate with my co-driver, saying, "Hey, this is what's going on. I'm probably gonna pick you up tomorrow." I think I gave him the best ETA that I could give him, and I there was like an issue with trying to get this dude on the truck, and so I was like, I'm gonna come get you. If you do not get on this truck or I do not hear back from you, I'm going to Wisconsin. And the company agreed with me and they said, if he does not get on the truck, go ahead and go to Wisconsin because this load was, going to be late otherwise. So, I, you know, tried to call him, I texted him, nothing. So I went to Wisconsin without him. And what ended up happening was at the Wisconsin, this was, weekend dispatcher, so, during the time. So Monday, when my, you know, driver manager got in, they planned us to go back to, you know, Illinois, which was where my co-driver was, to pick him up. And I told him, hey, this is what's going to happen. And so I believe there might have been a little bit of delay or something going on. I don't remember exactly what happened. And so I'm on his way to Illinois. He's like, pick me up tomorrow. And, I can't get a hold of him and stuff like that. So what ended up happening is, and I believe I made a video of this. This was the Walmart video that I had. It has a thumbnail of like orange juice and stuff like that. Pretty proper video on the channel still, which is surprising to me. But, this kind of, I end up going to the local Walmart there. Of course, I went shopping there, and they told me that I was moving on to, solo driving because where I was living, there wasn't very many co-drivers around, and there was just no other option for me, pretty much. So that's kind of what ended up happening. But it just kind of shows you to, just watch out, the co-driver that you're going to get. Make sure you, watch out. If there's something that you have a problem with, try to fix it as much as possible, but don't sign up for anything. If your life is on the line and, you just don't feel safe or comfortable, it's time to leave. Just feel comfortable with just leaving. And there was no problem with that. And they said not in my eyes. The company may not like that decision, but if it's your life in stake and stuff like that, no company and like thing like that is no bigger. Nobody is above your life. So that's kind of my recommendation. Look for somebody that you can get along with. That you're not going to be having issues with. You guys aren't arguing, and make sure you feel comfortable with that guy. Make sure you're okay with him driving, and that you are confident in his driving abilities. Because if you're not, you're never going to be comfortable enough to sleep in that bunk while he's driving. It just will not happen. So that's kind of a recommendation for you guys. Now, unfortunately, I do have to go to work, but I do have to wrap things up here. I do apologize, but this, I pretty much have covered everything here. it just, be safe out there, and just make sure you're making the right decision here. But, you know, I, like I said, I'll go ahead and wrap things up here, and I will see you guys next time. Boy.